everyone, welcome once again to Arrow Discussions. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And today we're talking about the much anticipated first appearance of our Flash. The Scientist is the name of this one. It's the first of two parts. And after next week, Eric, we're going to be on hiatus.
We are. Well, will we be on hiatus? Will we do some roulettes in the hiatus?
If we have time, yeah, we might come back and do a couple roulettes. That'd be fun.
Maybe some holiday-themed roulettes.
Ooh, that's a great idea. We should do that. Those of you that don't know what we're talking about, we do a show called Netflix Roulette when we're not doing Arrow, and we go to Netflix and we pick a thing neither of us have seen. So yeah, that's a cool idea, holiday ones. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about The Scientist. I guess the first thing we should mention... Oh, before we even jump into the episode, let me once again mention the guy who, in our video, or who's been watching our videos, who in the comments figured out, just watching the show, that Thea is Malcolm's daughter, because that was really cool.
Didn't we talk about that last week?
Yeah, and I don't think I mentioned this to you outside of the show, Eric. But it turned out that it was one person that did it, and you made a mention of you thought it was several, and that they were looking at spoilers. And this guy got upset because he did it on his own, and he got a lot of praise from people because he figured it out all by himself.
I didn't.
And so I gave him comment of the week for it last week, but I wanted to mention him once again in case people didn't see that. His name was Josh 18686, and he deserves big mad props for it because he figured it out all on his own.
I just meant there had been some other instances where people had said things spoiler based, and I just kind of assumed because there's been a couple times this season where people are like, well, yeah, this is this, and we're like, well, we didn't know that. I kind of thought it was one of those things, but no, if he just completely called that on his own, way to go.
Yeah, I was really impressed. So anyway, good job once again on that. And Eric, let's jump right into it. So what do you think of the guy playing Barry Allen?
I really, really liked him. I've heard some not great responses from people. I really dug him. The biggest thing for me when they cast him was I was like, what's that guy, 16? And people are like, no, he's like 26, but he doesn't look it. And the entire episode was people making jokes about how he doesn't look his age. My favorite of which was Oliver saying, they're going to card him at the bar.
Yeah, that made the whole thing work.
Yeah. The fact that they addressed how young he looks, I really dug that. I really liked him. I liked his energy. I liked his charisma. Really, my only complaint is that he's not blonde.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. Good call.
There's one point specifically. It's when Oliver walks in and like reveals all the secrets about Barry, and they're both in frame looking at each other. And I was like, man, if he was blonde, it would kind of be cool because we would kind of have a glimpse at like who's this lighter hero, and Oliver being like the darker hero with the dark hair. I thought visually there could have been something interesting there, but no, I really liked him. I thought he was a lot of fun. I mean, I'm not a huge Flash fan. The only thing I've really read with Barry is Flash Rebirth and Jeff Johns' run before Flashpoint, and that's kind of all my knowledge of the character. But I really liked him.
He's definitely got the pretty boy thing going on, but I didn't mind it. Because he is really charming. They're not playing him on just his looks. And so that's working really well. It's also kind of fun. Like I thought I was going to be irritated about the thing with him and Felicity, and it works a lot, especially because they actually seem like they're close to the same age.
Well, and what really made them work is that they just kind of like techno babble back and forth with each other. Um, there's that great little scene where they're talking about the Hadron Collider. It's just like they really work together as characters, and I mean the actors had a good amount of chemistry too. But like I could see like on paper why that works.
Yeah, me too. And they have the same kind of awkward humor.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, he seems to be the only person that's come into the show that totally relates to her. I mean, like we've talked about how she has some decent chemistry with Oliver, and for a long time we were talking about how we wish she and Diggle would get together because we like their chemistry. But like this is the first person that's come in that seems to be from her world.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's also really nice to see somebody with his kind of background not being ultra tortured.
Or as Lego Spider-Man says, angsty.
Angsty? Yeah. I really, really dug that about him. It's nice that you can look at this guy and you don't immediately see this angst-ridden
Well,
thing where even not knowing about his background, you don't look at him and go, "That's a guy where bad things have happened to him." He seems really wet behind the ears and almost idealistic, and it's neat that he can have that with the sort of past that he's got. So, like, his reasons that he will eventually become a superhero make perfect sense. Like, he is this guy is primed to become a superhero right now. All he needs is to get superpowers, and that's going to happen.
it's nice
So
that
I
he
totally buy it.
it's nice that that's part of his history, but it doesn't define him as a person.
Yeah, well said. That's exactly where I was going with that. I think it's nice that we get to see Barry Allen right before he becomes the Flash, but knowing that he's about to get his powers.
Right.
I'm just saying, like very often you either see a character, be it a villain or a hero, that gets their powers the first time we see them, or it's like this really long road to finally see them get their have their origin story. It's nice to see this guy like days or weeks or something before it happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, so let's talk a bit about the homages because this is a big Smallville thing that people either loved or they hated. Where you'd have like winks and nods to comic things, and sometimes it was really heavy-handed, and sometimes it wasn't. Here, I thought it was pretty well handled. The one that and by the way, this whole episode I liked a lot better the second time than I did the first time I watched it, and because there were some nuances I didn't pick up on. Couple and later on I'll talk about this. A couple double entendres where the first time I rolled my eyes and the second time I went, oh, that means two things. That's interesting. Um, I didn't care initially for the line when he's dancing with Felicity when he says I'm not good on my feet initially because I was like, okay, that's like the whole Clark Kent in Smallville, I'm afraid of heights thing, which I always thought was silly and kind of nonsense. But then I thought about it and I did a little reading because like you, I'm not a big Flash guy, and I was like, oh, I didn't realize in the comics, Barry Allen was clumsy before he became the Flash. So that's not just a nod. They're doing the source
Well,
material.
and he also one of the running gags with Barry Allen is that he's always late. Like he's the fastest guy in the world, but he's always late, and that was there right at the beginning of the episode. I love these. I really like the line where he says, "My train was late." Well, I was late to the first one, but the second one was late. Um, and that was kind of a running thing of him being late, and that's kind of a Barry Allen thing, at least in Jeff Johns' run.
Yeah. So ultimately, I was fine with a lot of the nods. I like that we didn't have him at any point say anything like "I'll be there in a flash" or anything. I'm glad we didn't do that. And I don't know about you. I wanted to ask you what you thought of this. I thought the nod to the old comic origin was kind of cool.
I've got that listed later in another section, but I really like that scene. I thought it was really funny.
Because he's there with these chemicals, and because it's not just a wink nod nod thing. It's kind of clever because it's like, yeah, it is a little silly to be moving around volatile chemicals just in the
Oh,
middle of a lightning storm.
Flash has the second dumbest origin of all time.
Yeah, I mean, I love that they did. And at first, because I mean, this was stupid of me because I knew about the particle accelerator. We've only mentioned it every episode this season, but I did have that split second moment where I went, "Is he gonna get his superpowers right here in the scene?" That's
Actually, I, sh-
not going to do that.
I should
Sorry, what?
amend my statement. Barry Allen has the second dumbest superior origin of all time because Wally West has the dumbest superior origin of all time because it
What?
happens again.
Oh, it happens again.
Yeah,
It's exactly the same
Wally.
thing.
Wally is. It's like Barry's like, hey, here's this shelf full of chemicals, and then they all fall on Wally, and then he gets struck by lightning.
I just thought that was really funny when he was like, "Who puts this next to this?" And she's like, "Well, then maybe you shouldn't be playing with them." I love that. Was he wearing a lab coat in that scene? I'm trying to remember.
I think he was. Well, he wasn't playing with them. He was talking about how dangerous it was for them to be arranged there.
Well, that's what I mean. And she's like, maybe you shouldn't be touching them. It's like, yeah, that's pretty great. Because not only was it an homage to the comic origin, but it was lit and shot a little bit like the TV show version.
Well, and what was funny
I don't know if you
was
watched the pilot, but like I think they I don't I hope I'm not reaching when I say this. I think they might have been thinking that a little bit.
Uh,
Because people do remember that show somewhat fondly.
it's yeah. I just like that he had the chemicals and it's storming. And you're like ha ha ha, and then there's a big like lightning crack, and you're like,
Yeah, that was pretty great. I have only one complaint about the way he was handled, and it has nothing to do with the actor, and it has nothing to do with writing. And I mentioned this to you on the phone, and I know you said you didn't have this, but I did want to mention it. I thought that the kind of whimsical, mysterious tune in the soundtrack that they had every time he was on screen was a little distracting because it played oh man, it's this comic book character that you know, and how cool is this? But what I found annoying about it is that there's nothing really special about this kid yet.
yeah,
Like he's going to here pretty soon become the Flash, so like it's too, I don't even want to say foreshadowy. It's like it's thinking too much about what's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like it's too predicting, and I didn't care for that because the show has not done that with any other character.
right. Well,
You know, and it's introduced other comic book characters that you might know. Nobody this big, but I just would have preferred it to bring him in like a like we never knew him before. You know, like he's just another person, and like downplay it a little bit maybe. And I felt like in the script and in the acting it was downplayed, but I just didn't really care for the way the soundtrack was handled.
you told me that, and when I rewatched it, I forgot to look for it, and I didn't notice it again.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, you know what? It might just be me. But I don't know. I didn't really care for that. It was too anticipating.
Yeah.
Um, but that I don't know. That's it. That's not a big deal. I hope that it doesn't continue through the next episode. Or like every time he's on screen, we have to have that music because it won't be appropriate
Well,
anymore.
we'll get to that
It's
with
like
with predictions, but I don't think he's going to be in the next episode as much as we think he will be.
okay, okay, we'll talk about that. Why don't we go ahead and start running down our notes? What kinds of things? Yeah, just episode on the whole now.
The opening scene when Solomon Grundy busts in and grabs the guy. Did you initially think it was an invisible person? Because the way it's shot, we don't see him and we see like guys getting lifted up. And when I first watched it, I thought we were dealing with an invisible foe, not, or possibly a super fast foe. Um, as opposed to super strong. I don't know. It was really weirdly shot.
When I was watching it the first time, I actually thought it was a super fast person, because because I knew, and I guess this is me anticipating too much. I knew that this was going to be the episode where Barry Allen shows up, and I knew that we'd been talking about the particle accelerator this whole time. So I assumed that whoever it was created by the particle
Yeah,
accelerator.
I thought it was super fast or invisible. I thought it was something that we weren't seeing, and it was just shot weird for that.
Yeah, and also then when they review the security tape, it looks like that again.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but then he says it's one guy, and he gives you all this evidence. Oh, that's what happened. Okay.
Um, this is the first episode when they started releasing images for, or I guess like posters and stuff for this season. We were worried because it looked like Felicity was getting all they were dressing her up and making her look more, like sexy, which
Yeah.
I think this is the first episode where that's kind of happened. She's dressed kind of skimpy.
Yeah, that was the most provocative thing she's ever put on, I think.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if it's because thematically is the wrong word, but I'm wondering if it's not like she woke up that day and knew that she was going to meet Barry Allen, but maybe creatively, like the idea was to for the audience heighten, like, look, they like each other, look, she's all hot, and he's into her. I wondered if that was the reason.
Yeah, I don't really get why they felt the need to do that if that's the case, because it's not like she's not already attractive no matter what they put on her. She's a pretty girl.
Yeah, and I
And
thought that dress would have worked fine at the end where they're at the ball.
Yeah, good call. I mean, like she's and also we had that episode a while back where she went to some kind of function and wore this knockout dress.
Right.
Like I made a point about that. Where I was like, that thing was stunning. So I mean, like it's not like we've never seen Felicity look incredibly gorgeous
But
before.
she's never dressed like that on a day-to-day basis.
On a day-to-day basis, yeah. It would now. I would say that in her new role as his secretary, I could sort of buy her doing that from the beginning of the season. But why suddenly now?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can see what you're saying. And yeah, I was distracted by that shirt because I'd never seen her wear anything like that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But yeah, okay, I've got a question for you. Now that Lance is not a detective, would someone please explain to me why he investigates everything that has to do with Queen Consolidated?
And why he seems to be the lead investigator on all of these cases?
Yep. At this point, we seem to have forgotten that he's no longer a detective. He still wears the uniform of just a cop, but like no one says to him anymore, "Hey, you're not supposed to be here. You're just an officer." Yeah, what was that about?
I didn't even think of it, but now that you bring it up, that's a good point.
Yeah, that's a little convenient. He's always there. I did think it was really funny when he said to Oliver, "You don't just happen to have another earthquake machine laying around, do you?"
Yeah, and then he's like, sorry.
Oh, sorry, that was in poor taste, wasn't it? God, I love him. He
I
he
know.
can. That actor can do no wrong, man. When he's on screen, I'm all there. Like, yeah, oh, he's great.
Um,
What else you got?
I love how Barry delivers technobabble. I thought that's not something that a lot of people can do easily or naturally. I thought he did it fantastically. He actually reminded me a little bit of like Doctor Who, how Doctor Who will go off on those rants.
I'm so glad you said that because you were spot on that. It is a little bit like that.
Yeah. That specifically the who's the really popular doctor? David Tennant.
David Tennant.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
specifically reminded me a bit of David Tennant when he would go on those long, rambly technobabble things, and it was really fun to see him and Felicity going back and forth technobabble discussing things. Well, this is this, and this, and this. Oh, well, if that's that, then surely this must be this, this, and this. And I enjoyed all the technobabble scenes this episode.
Yeah, and it's kind of neat because they're in different fields. I mean, I said they come from the same world, and they kind of do, but I think they were really smart about like they tend to babble together, but they don't know about exactly the same things either. You don't have him like stepping in on her computer stuff and talking
Is
computer
this the
stuff
first time where she's admitted limitations in anything that involves science? Where she
at all.
says that I'm not like a CSI guy.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Um,
One thing that really impressed me with him now that we're back on Barry Allen again is and just with the episode in general, the way that it crafted this, I did not expect this, especially just this first episode with him, but I can immediately see the premise for his TV show.
oh yeah,
Like I can see it in spades. Like the guy. Okay, he's a good investigator, so he can solve his own crimes. And he's got, like I said earlier, he's got motivation for being a superhero, but he's got motivation for going and finding out about these supernatural crimes. So immediately we're making this a very different premise from Arrow, because Arrow's about the street level. Whoa, sorry, I just something fell off my wall. Oh, sorry. Give me just a second here. I lost a poster.
which poster is it?
It's my framed Batman one that's usually behind me when I do the live shows.
Oh,
I had to put it back up on a nail today, and I guess I put it in a bad spot because it fell off. Anyway, um, what was I talking about? So with Arrow, you've got the kind of grounded urban stuff, and clearly we're going to immediately go supernatural with this,
I'm
and
not
he's
sure
gonna.
if they've gone completely supernatural as much as right now we're in super science territory. I think Flash will be more likely to go supernatural before this one does.
Well, that no. I'm not talking about with Arrow. I'm talking about with like I was saying with the premise of his show.
Oh right,
He goes and investigates supernatural crimes.
it's like a Super X Files.
Exactly, and I really like that because that immediately separates it from this. It immediately makes it a little bit lighter, a little stranger.
And as comic book fans, that whole background sets up Professor Zoom.
Yeah, and that means that time travel is possible in the Arrow universe.
He slipped, hit his head on the bathroom sink, and woke up and realized time travel is possible.
Don't you think it's really cool that before Barry Allen gets his powers, bringing him in is the place where we start broaching the possibility of the supernatural in the show?
Well, and what's kind of really interesting, because obviously this is Jeff Johns, it was the co-writer on this episode. Um, that, from what I understand, the whole Professor Zoom thing was a retcon. Um, and I think that's actually what started Flashpoint. I don't know. Regardless,
Yeah,
my point is, um, that by specifically going with that origin as his origin, it puts something supernatural right there, and he doesn't even fully realize it. I mean, he gets teleported away, so he does, but maybe even more so than he realizes.
yeah, I really like that, and it also makes it feel less weird and forced that suddenly we this stuff is possible when all the way through first season we figured there wouldn't be any of that.
Well, and
Um,
it's really nice that they've been slowly easing into it.
I think they've done a great job of making that gradual, especially. And what's kind of neat is they even make it kind of a character thing with Oliver because he has this season has been all about the stuff Oliver knows that nobody else does, and we get into this, and Oliver knows about a super serum,
Right.
and he's known that since the island, and he just hasn't told anybody about it. So I think it's neat that we don't have to go through all this rigmarole for several episodes of Oliver trying to get his mind around the supernatural.
Right.
I'm glad we're doing it that way. I think that's fantastic.
Although there was, I think it's Diggle's line where he's like, "Are we supposed to believe in vampires now?" And I was like, I understand that that's a stretch, but it is kind of a pet peeve in like Marvel and DC when they're like, "Come on now, vampires." It kind of works here, but I wouldn't be surprised if at some point we get a Halloween episode with vampires.
Well, what I guess was kind of okay with it, although that's funny too because then we had the whole like two pronged syringe thing earlier when
Yeah,
you talked about that. But to your point, it was in a context of okay, it's super strength and sucks blood. Yeah, the first thing you would say would be vampires. Also, I didn't feel like that was in the context. Okay, guy, really vampire because the thing that he said later was oh god what's going to happen next, aliens, and I think that was a setup. I think that was, yeah, we might go there eventually.
well, what I think really made that work was that I'm hoping this gets played up more because I have in my notes. Can we give Diggle something to do? Because it seems like at this point, if we don't stop and have an episode about Diggle, he has nothing to do. He has no role except for Oliver to talk to him. He's
I'm
basically
with
Alfred now.
Well, we because the problem is we kind of closed the door on Deadshot for a minute, and because he's at least, I mean, Deadshot's not gone, but he's at least not
Well, but
going
in
after him.
season one, he had character arcs with Oliver, with
Yeah.
Felicity. He was doing things in the plot, and now it feels like unless we're dealing with the plots that deal with him, he's just there.
Oh, so you're not saying we need to interrupt this with another Diggle episode. You're saying he needs more of a function in the
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
yeah. Well, and do you think maybe they're having, and this is understandable, a little bit of a hard time juggling everybody, because like I think most people they're doing a decent job of finding a place for. But yeah, I'm with you. Diggle, they're struggling with a
And
little bit.
I love Diggle, but it seems like in most episodes, if he doesn't have his own story, he's just there to talk to Oliver. He doesn't
Yeah,
seem
I
to
agree with you.
really do much. But my point was, uh,
Yeah,
I hope that they follow up on this, and I want I want specifically Diggle, because maybe this can be his function, is he's the guy that's kind of realizing what's going on. Like it's still fantastical to him. Um, because Felicity seems to just kind of roll with whatever comes at her. I kind of hope he's the guy that's like, wait a second, what do you mean there's an evil cult in this city led by a guy in a skull mask?
Yeah, where he's kind of speaking for the audience a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, I like that. I like how Barry figured out everything about Green Arrow being in the city 5 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I thought that was kind of fun. Like he figures out that Oliver has partners, he doesn't kill people, and he trained in the jungle. Like
And that
all
if
at
he wanted to
once.
kill people, he could have done this with his arrows.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I'm saying is that like not like he doesn't just say he explains it to us. Like his reasoning makes perfect sense.
Right.
And the thing is, anybody could have put those things together. Now, the only problem I had with it is he is that insightful. He's paying that close of attention, figuring stuff out, and then Felicity has blood that Arrow got, and he doesn't immediately go, "Wait a minute, maybe it's Oliver Queen." I mean, he
Possible
ultimately doesn't.
counterpoint.
It doesn't matter by the end because then he gets to find out that Oliver's Arrow. But I'm just saying that like it seems like the first thing he would have said is, "Well, wait a minute, you're working for. So what's your counterpoint?"
Um, he's socially awkward. So he can sit down and logically look at all of these things, but he's not good at reading people. So he doesn't immediately make that connection because this is this person he's talking to. He's not. He's like emotionally he doesn't know how to process things like that. If that makes like
I
he's
mean,
not
I could
he's not
say,
a I don't know. There's a word I'm trying to think of and I can't think of it.
isn't she standing there with the arrow?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that like that's not reading a person. That's looking at physical evidence. So I could buy maybe he's distracted by
Well,
her
but
because he likes her.
the way that it's played off is that the cops found it at the scene and Oliver got it like from
But she
evidence.
mentions his connections
I
and
thought that was
like
I thought that was meant to be police and it's from evidence.
but that's not what she says. She just said because he says, "Oh, I guess it pays to have like a rich boss." I'm like, what does the fact that he's rich have to do with getting an arrow from a crime scene?
Well, because he can get access to the cops. That's what I assumed it was
Oh,
that
okay.
he's well
All right.
connected and can get stuff from the cops that you wouldn't normally be able to get.
Well, maybe that's what it was. I thought it was strange that he didn't consider that, but you know, you might be right.
Can we move away from Barry for a second and let me
Yeah,
be
go ahead.
a complete and total girl?
Sure. Be a complete and total girl, Eric.
Roy and Thea are the new Laurel and Tommy, and I love them together, and I like that they just have scenes together, and they leave together, and they enter rooms together, and I really like them together.
Oh, really? Okay, that's cool.
There was specifically a scene where uh, Roy and Thea were there uh, with Thea's mom, and they say something, and then Thea's like, "Okay, well, we have to go because Roy has to leave," and like they left together, and I was like, "Oh, they're so cute."
Yeah, I'm distracted by the way they keep keeping secrets from each other.
Yeah,
Because I feel like it's a tiny bit forced, and they have good reasons most of the time. It's just that you know that a lot of their problems would be solved if they simply worked together and didn't keep secrets from each other at all.
they seem to somewhat be building towards that, where she was like, "I really like you, just go and help people."
Yeah, and then you got to the end, and he got that phone call and lied to her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, but that was for her protection.
Yeah, I suppose. But what I'm saying is, you like them together, but you know ultimately that's what's going to break them up.
Yeah.
They will do an episode where where they decide they can't be together anymore. But you just wait. I'm sure this is what they'll do, where it's like, well, you keep things for me and you keep things. It's for your protection. What's for your protection? Well, I guess we can't. Well, they ought to just team up and be a superhero team. Like,
Speaking of Roy, how about his confrontation with Ollie?
wait a minute, maybe that's what they'll do. Maybe they'll be co-speedies.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Cause she had that nickname
Yeah.
and he is he is Red Arrow. So yeah, maybe they'll just be like co-speedies at some
They'll be a
point.
crime fighting duo.
Maybe this is the way they're bringing her, more into the street thing, where she's helping him with a thing, and then she'll be like, oh, I get why you do this now. It's worth the danger, and then she like gets into it or something. Anyway, I'm sorry. What?
How about Roy's confrontation with Ollie? That was kind.
I loved that.
Yeah,
I loved it because I love how tumultuous their their relationship is they're not doing a thing where suddenly he's got this sidekick. And I mean they've been building already, and that's really great, but like I love that it's got like ebbs and flows.
well, I didn't expect anything like this. Like everything was going good. I didn't even think of like, oh well, something could go wrong.
Yeah. And like I thought it was pretty harsh the way Oliver handled it. I was kind of surprised he went there.
Yeah, that was crazy.
I still don't know what to think about that. Like he shot him in the leg. That thing went from one side of his leg out the other.
Yeah, that was
That was
it was a
nuts.
little it was a little rash.
Well, I mean, maybe he's thinking because like he doesn't want this guy to make trouble for him, but also to get himself killed. Because remember, he was worried about copycats at the beginning of the season, and so he might be thinking, maybe I could scare him into quitting if
Oh
he's
yeah.
gonna if he's gonna go too far. Like maybe that's what he's thinking. Because you also have to remember that he's dating his sister, and
Yeah.
he's not gonna want her to get too wrapped up in this stuff, right? So I don't know. He's got a personal stake in that. We're not given his exact motivations for going that far, so I'm speculating. One thing I should mention is that they finally showed us how the stupid arrow in the wall thing works. Now, what I want to know, because, okay, so now it makes sense, but it seems a little elaborate, right? Like, why did we need to put like surveillance on one place where an arrow goes, and what if he put it far enough along the wall that you wouldn't see it? Because like, did he draw? Did Oliver draw like a box and say, make sure you put it within these like lines? But the other thing I'm thinking is, couldn't you? We know that he has like trick arrows, and we've seen him do things with. I'm trying to remember if he had like a radio arrow or in first season or what exactly he had, but I think he had one that was like a tracer arrow.
I'm
So
pretty
like,
sure he did in the first season.
yeah. So couldn't he have just given him one that would like put out a homing beacon? Wouldn't that have been easier than rigging up a camera?
That's what you thought it was to begin with.
That's what I thought it was to begin because it makes more sense.
I, on the other hand, assumed that you just stuck it in the wall and Oliver would see it.
Yeah, well, at least this makes more sense. Wouldn't it have been great if they had like an alarm that went off? That like it's like the arrow in the wall alarm is going off. Oliver. You got to go help. Like it's a good thing that
Ollie, observe the viewing globe.
no. I think we just figured out Diggle's function now. He just stares at that monitor until Roy puts the arrow in the wall. But now he's not going to have that function anymore, so he's totally useless.
Let's
Well, anyway.
jumping over to the island. I
Yeah.
thought the conversation between Ollie and Shadow, where she kind of finds out that Ollie was kind of two-timing scumbag, that was
Uh-huh.
a really nice little scene.
It was. I really liked that.
Um,
Because he's got, because he's changing, he's growing, he's learning, but he is still paying for past sins, which is what this character is all about.
right. Um,
No, that was great. She tears it up in every scene.
Shadow? Oh
Yeah,
yeah, she's good.
she's fantastic.
I will complain a little bit that I was right all those episodes ago. It was googly-eyed Slade.
It was good. Yeah, yep, it sure was. But I think it's better than I thought it was.
We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, that's true. I guess we will have to kind of see how it plays out. But I'm just saying that we haven't gotten a straight up obnoxious love triangle yet, and I don't think we'll see that. Especially because
He's probably going
you know,
to become a raging psychopath after this.
well, there okay, first of all there's that, but also it's more complicated because we got Sarah there now.
Right.
and also we've got. I mean, basically got an Oliver who can't win. Like he's not going to suddenly start dating Sarah now because that would be really awkward, and he's not going to be able to really get with Shadow now because that just got really awkward. So I don't think we're going to have to really worry about a love triangle or some kind of rectangle or anything for a while with the island at least. I don't know. I think that it is not going superficial, which is great.
Right.
So
Um,
so you know what? Slade can have his googly eyes about Shadow because frankly, I think he's earned it, given that he got half his face burned off. And oh, one
so
one.
is it now googly eye for Shadow?
I guess so. One little thing I'd like to complain about is the makeup on Slade's face is a little inconsistent in this episode. Early on, it looks fantastic, and then in the scene where where they give him the serum, it looks like he's got charcoal on his face. It doesn't even look burned anymore. There's a lot of that makeup is missing.
He's also very lucky that is a perfect line down his face.
Yep. Yeah, but that's a comic book thing. I love that.
I know. Um, I only have one other note, which is so Ollie rats out Barry to his boss. Barry has to go through this whole rigmarole of like, nope, I'm getting on the train. I'll be at work tomorrow, and then they kidnap him. I really hope he doesn't get fired for this because he's not making it back to work tomorrow.
Well, I had a couple other notes, but I'll jump to the end since you mentioned that. Would you please explain that last scene to me? Because it's dramatic, but I think it's really silly.
Which part of it?
Why? Why do they trank him? I
So
don't
he
get
doesn't
it.
know where their secret base is. It's the same thing as in Batman '89, where he sprays her with the thing.
Yeah, except that he sees Oliver's face.
Well,
I don't
he doesn't have
understand.
to know where it is.
But they're letting him in on everything else.
I didn't really think of
And
that.
yeah, I mean, okay, so they're gonna give him the secret identity of Green Arrow, but then like the thing they're really worried about is him knowing where the Arrow Cave is.
Maybe that stuff on his eyes really will fool him, and he won't put two and two together.
If they go there, I will lose my mind. I don't think they're gonna do that. But here's the reason I'm questioning it, or the other reason I'm questioning it, because like I said, that seems odd because it seems like the thing that you would really be worried about is he's gonna tell everybody, but the other thing is they trank him, and then I'm trying to figure out the logistics of Diggle just sits there while Oliver needs immediate medical attention and waits for this guy to wake up.
Wasn't Diggle in the war? I mean, I know episode wise, like they need Barry to stick around, but maybe this is something Diggle could have done. Maybe he can dress a wound from being in, Afghanistan.
Well, it's not a matter of just dressing a wound, though. They've got to figure out what he got injected with.
Oh yeah,
That's what it's all about. Because
right,
because remember, Barry Allen is not a doctor.
right.
The first thing I said was, well, why do they need Barry? He's not a doctor. But then I'm like, okay, they want him to do an analysis to figure out what's in there because they don't want to take him to a doctor and let the doctor find out that he is Green Arrow. But the thing is, since they have no idea what it is, wouldn't they want to work as quickly as possible? Like they were ready to like Diggle was or not or was it no it was Diggle. Diggle was ready to just call
The
an
hospital,
ambulance and
yeah.
let everybody know. So like it seems like the last thing they would be worried about would be Barry knowing the secret hideout.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
But the thing is, it plays really well that it's easy to not question it. Because I
Yeah,
didn't think until the second time I watched it. But I mean, like, it's really dramatic. And then I was like, you were trying to trick me into thinking something makes sense that doesn't make sense.
I think it's also kind of a superhero trope a little bit. So
Okay,
I just
that's
kind of
fair.
like I just went with it. I didn't even think about it. I
That's
I actually
here's the thing, I would not have thought so much about it if they had masked him.
yeah, yeah.
But when they show his face, I'm like, this is weird. I thought that was a little weird. Again, not a huge deal or anything, but it was a little strange. I'm questioning it.
I actually have another note that I glazed over.
Yeah.
Okay, so when Malcolm and Moira are having their conversation.
Yeah, that was the other thing I wanted to talk about. Go ahead.
Malcolm talks about his new purpose. What is it? What is his plan now? What is he says, his eyes have been opened. He's got this new outlook on life. He's got a new purpose. What is he trying to do? Is he the bad guy for this season too? Like, I haven't seen him talking to Blood. I don't. What is he doing now?
As far as we know, the only thing he's doing is trying to get Thea. Like that's it so far. I don't know if there's anything else going on. I wonder if it's not some kind of like mad scheme to build his own just to have a family. Like I wonder if it's not just Thea. I wonder if he's like wanting to just like get Moira to run away with him or something.
Maybe maybe I just read it because of last season. I read it as like he had a new master plan, but maybe you're right. And
Well,
I should note,
I don't
um,
think we have information. Like I have
since
no idea.
since we mentioned someone else in the comments from last episode, I guess I should mention somebody who made me look like a complete idiot because we were talking about Thea, and I was like, well, it has to be at least 6 years ago. It has to be before this. And somebody's like, well, Thea's 18, so presumably it was 18 years ago.
That's a good point. Okay, I watched this twice, and I don't understand how Moira knows about the League of Shadows or League of Assassins.
um,
Somebody help me out on this because she said because the thing is if she just was affiliated with the league or knew about them or something, okay, but she says because he says how do you know about Ra's al Ghul, and she says well I never heard that name until you mentioned Nanda Parbat. It makes it sound like she just like did a Google search or something and then looked him up. Like I don't understand that. And the thing is at first I thought it was a bluff because I was like, maybe she somehow learned about Ra's al Ghul, but then didn't actually talk to him. But then when I watched it a second time, I remembered, oh yeah, we see the contact she talks to. So she definitely talked to Ra's al Ghul.
yeah.
We see her contact. Explain to me how the name Nanda Parbat gets her to Ra's al Ghul.
Well, that is where he said he went in season one. He said that's where he went for 2 years. So I don't know. Maybe she
But
had some knowledge of it.
who does she send a message to? Like now she doesn't say she'd never heard of the League of Assassins.
Right. She
But
said she'd never
this
heard of
is
Ra's al Ghul.
the first time that she hears about Ra's al Ghul. Now, I'm not saying the episode is jumping over something. I'm just saying that I'm hoping this gets explained because I don't really get it.
I'm not trying to make the fire rise here, but maybe she has the same Google search engine as Alfred in Dark Knight Rises.
That's really funny. Where yeah, because he seemed like he just did a Google search there too. Yeah. So yeah, I just don't understand that. There have been a lot of things like this in the series where we'll question something in the next episode, they'll reveal it, and we're like, okay, they had a plan. They just that wasn't the time to mention it. So I'm hoping that's the case here, but I don't really I don't really know. Anyway, well, why don't we go ahead and jump to best moment, worst moment. What was your favorite moment of the episode, Eric?
Well, my favorite moment was the scene where Moira reveals that she contacted Roz. Um,
Oh, really?
Not really thinking about the things that you were talking about. I just really liked how that scene played.
Oh, she's
She's
fantastic.
great. She has all of the cards, and he doesn't even know it. It's a really good scene if you don't think about those things you just brought up.
Oh well, I'm sorry for ruining that. I hope I didn't ruin it because
Well,
I
no,
love that scene
well, no,
too. I'm just a little confused.
regardless of any of that, she still owns that scene. It's still a really good scene. She plays it great.
Are you as impressed as I am that they got her out of jail and she matters and we like her still and
Oh,
because she's kind of back
absolutely.
she's back where she was first season where she's mysterious and she is doing evil backdoor things or not evil but
But I
um
think after going through
she's
first
like
season
morally
and seeing it
compromised and stuff.
now, we
Yeah,
kind of understand all of her moral compromises are just to protect her family.
Yeah, and isn't it kind of interesting that she is directly responsible for turning Malcolm into what he is?
Yeah.
Like he leaves Starling because he cheated with her and felt bad about it. And then that's the reason he goes off with the League of
I
Assassins.
thought he left
Um,
because his wife died.
I thought he said I left because I felt terrible about that, or maybe yeah, maybe it was because his wife died. I'm fuzzy about that, but I'm just saying it is connected to all that.
Right.
So yeah, that's cool. I liked I think my favorite scene was Barry explaining what happened to his mother because I thought he was great there.
It's a good scene. Both
And I guess some of
both
it's a
scenes
some of it's
actually.
a I guess some of it is kind of a fan thing too, where I was just really excited they went the Professor Zoom direction.
Well, the first time when he explains it to Felicity is good, and the second time when he gives the full story is also a really good scene.
That's the scene I'm talking
Okay.
about. But yeah, because what I think is really neat about it is that for comic fans, it's like, wow, you're going there. For anybody that doesn't know the story, um, it's also really cool because their minds will be blown when they find out what it is
Well, and what's great is the
if they
way
watch
it's
this.
phrased.
That's
It
cool.
does not immediately tell you that it's another super speed person.
No, not at all.
It sounds like a
But
teleporter.
yeah, I get yeah. Well, kind of. I mean, he says it's like a tornado.
Well, but he says, and then he was like blocks away. I don't know. The way it sounded to me sounded like it kind of sounded like he just got teleported away.
I mean, if you know it's Barry Allen, you might be, even if you don't know the story, you might be thinking, oh, it probably has something to do with super speed. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. I don't know. I think it's cool that we didn't get everything right away.
Right. Yeah. No. No. That's all really great.
Did you have a worse moment?
I didn't. I couldn't come up with something that was specifically my worst moment.
Oh, I think that's the first this year you've had that.
Um,
Maybe not.
I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, this was solid. I didn't have anything huge. I guess the only thing was there was a little bit of thinly veiled innuendo I didn't really care for. I didn't need the line when Felicity says I think Olivator penetrates just fine.
Yeah.
I didn't need that, but it's minor. It's not a big deal. I had
But
to write
but
something.
I thought that line made sense because the point was that he's not trying to kill them.
Yeah, you're right, but it was in the middle of like this kind of romantic thing.
Yeah.
But now that you said that, because I was going to mention this earlier, there were a couple other moments like that where at first I didn't really care for it, and then it was kind of a double entendre thing. Um, for instance, I usually would be a little bit irritated about things like when Roy has that line where he says the whole thing about like you can't keep queen women down, and he says you must get that from your father. And I'm like, oh, we're doing an episode about how Malcolm is actually her father. And then I thought, well, actually, that's cool because like she kind of did get that from her father because he can't be killed.
Right.
So that's kind of cool. So then like I don't know. This episode had a lot of things that I didn't like at first, and then I thought about them, and then they worked okay. Like uh okay, so we keep talking about how this whole season, the themes and things tend to permeate throughout the whole
I
season.
thought this had a
So,
couple of new ones.
okay, go ahead.
I thought the big thing this episode was um how you see people and how they really are. We have Felicity with Barry. She kind of sees him one way, and then Ollie pulls back the curtain. We have that with Shadow.
Oh, good.
There's a little bit of that with the mom. It's all of or well, it's a little bit different with Moira because her reveal is that she's stronger than Malcolm thinks she is. But I thought this episode was all about perception of people versus how people really are.
Yeah, that's great. I think we're also seeding, but we didn't fully pay this off. But I think we are beginning a running trend, perhaps, of obsession with immortality.
Yeah, I could see
Which
that becoming a big thing.
given that we're doing League of Assassins, you have to assume it's probably going to be there anyway. But now we've got some very specific examples of it, because like clearly Brother Blood is after that, Ivo was after that, and Malcolm has maybe achieved it.
Which we didn't mention. Are we just gonna assume that those military guys are Ivo's guys, or do you think it's something else?
I don't know. I'm not sure yet. I didn't think we had enough information. But one thing I did want to mention earlier that I forgot about also, there's a lot in this, is I'm kind of liking that that like very organically and realistically we've got Oliver kind of dropping things about stuff that happened on the island well after stuff we haven't seen yet. So like he says Ivo dies.
Oh yeah.
No, Ivo doesn't make it.
Well, we've been having that all season. We had Sarah mention the last time she saw Oliver's costume was Shadow was wearing it, and I think she says something about. I think Sarah says something about Slade.
when
Um,
Olive when she first shows up in the present day stuff, the first thing she asks Oliver is what happened to Slade. So you know, if you're paying attention all the way through all this stuff in this episode, that Slade's gonna make it.
at least until she leaves being
Yeah.
in their party.
Now, realistically, comic book fans, we have to assume that we're going to see him put a Deathstroke costume on. But I'm just saying that if you're just watching the show, we have some road signs. We know some stuff about the island, and about stuff we haven't seen yet. And I think that's really cool because it makes it feel more real.
Well, it's like how in season one they set up that thing with the Russians, and then that kind of paid off in season two, where we found out how he met the Russian guy.
Yeah, good point. Um, what was? Did you have a favorite line?
I did. My favorite line is kind of tied to what could have been my favorite part, but I wanted to put the Moira thing there. So my favorite line is from the not origin scene, which is just this is the definition of dangerous when he's looking at all the chemicals.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
That
it was gonna be my favorite part, but I kind of thought I wanted to put the Moira scene there, so I just put the line here.
my favorite line was the first thing Barry said, or Oliver says to Barry when he says, Do your parents know you're here?" That's
See,
great.
I like that one, but I like the they will card him at the bar. I like that one a little bit more.
Yeah, but that was funny because they did that line. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like it's a running thing. And I just thought of this. I think it's really interesting that we've got an Oliver that like this relationship. I mean, like the way they do the dynamic between those two wouldn't have worked first season the way it's working now,
oh yeah,
because Oliver has grown and matured, and he's a very different person from where he was at the beginning. And he was the kid, not the same person, but like he was a kid like Barry Allen is back on the island.
right,
And so we get this really interesting kind of contrast between these two people, because Barry's Barry hasn't been through. We had that episode, The Crucible. Barry's about to have his own crucible when he gets his superpowers.
right,
He hasn't been through that yet. And I think it's really interesting that Oliver's kind of looking down at him as a kid, because it's not just that it's a young, it's that he's wet behind the ears. He hasn't been through anything yet. I mean, yeah, something bad happened to his mom when he was 11, and that's his kind of tragic, kid past. But like him himself, he's not really been through stuff yet.
right.
Which again makes it great for him to get his own series. Okay, so tons of comic book references. Tons of it. We've got obviously Nana Parbat was mentioned, which we hadn't had yet. We knew about
I
Roz, but
think it was mentioned in season one, and we glossed over it.
oh really?
Yeah, because I wikied Nanda Parbat because I was sure, because I just recently reread Batman R.I.P. I was sure that really jumped out at me. That's where Batman goes through his I can't even begin to pronounce it. His simulation of death. That's a really big part of Batman R.I.P. Nanda
Yeah,
Parbat's where that happens. But it says in the episode Dead to Rights Malcolm Merlin reveals that during his 2-year disappearance following his wife's murder, he met a man in Nanda Parbat that helped him find a purpose for his life. So season 1, they referenced it.
Cool. So we mentioned the nod to Flash's comic origin. We've got a mention of Cord Enterprises,
Yeah. Which
and
apparently there have been other references to the Blue Beetle that we haven't caught.
yeah, which is cool. And there have been some rumors that the Question might be in the show at some point,
That would make
which
sense. He would fit this perfectly.
would fit fantastic in this. So, wouldn't it be kind of neat if we had a Blue Beetle Question thing somewhere in this show? Because that would be a great spinoff, dude.
Well, Blue Beetle is more traditionally teamed with Booster Gold.
Yeah, but he's been teamed with the Question.
Kind of just in Watchmen.
Oh, I thought that that was a thing.
No, just in Watchmen. The thing is blue and gold.
Oh, okay. Well, and you know, Booster Gold, they're doing a pilot for Sci-Fi.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, and apparently there is a mention of Arrow in the script for the pilot.
Is he just going to be Booster?
And no,
Because we don't mention colors.
but whoever I don't know who it was, but whoever wrote it wanted to do a nod so it could be in the same universe as if they wanted to, but he said he wasn't sure if they let him keep the line in.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't even know any of that. So that's really cool.
Um, yeah. So what else?
Well, we
There's
have
also
Solomon Grundy, which I guess we
yeah.
started last episode, but we get to see him be super strong. What's up with that mask he's wearing? I couldn't figure that if it was supposed to be. Uh, is it supposed to be like something like Brother Blood's mask? I couldn't tell
No,
if
I
it was
don't think
supposed to be like
so.
a
I
black
think it's
version
just
of
a
that
mask.
mask. Okay, it was just weird he was wearing a mask for no reason.
No, because the Brother Blood mask has more stuff going on in it.
Yeah,
Like it's got detail and stuff. Like that was just kind of a generic black mask. I mean, not a
he
you
wasn't
know.
Black Mask, but
um, there's a name drop for director Singh, who is the guy in charge of the crime lab in Jeff Johns' run.
oh, okay.
And it's interesting. Now this is something I looked up because I didn't catch this, but I read this that there is a guy working for Brother Blood named Randu Singh, and it would be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see if they tie those together and if they're related. Because if they are, either they'll pay that off next episode, or that would be something that would immediately lead to more crossover in the future between the two series.
Okay.
I would figure.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else that I didn't mention?
No, I didn't have a lot this episode, so no.
Okay, let's mention predictions real quick. You mentioned a couple things earlier. Do you have other predictions?
Well, next episode is called Three Ghosts, which we've known for a little bit. I don't know how long it's been up on Wiki, but we not on episode, but off mic. I when I saw that, I was like, okay, so something's gonna happen. Raleigh's gonna be all beat up, and he's gonna be like hallucinating, and it's gonna be Christmas Carol. Totally called that. He's all beat up. He's gonna be. I'm calling it. He's hallucinating next episode. Which is why I said I don't think we're gonna get Barry as much as we think we will. I think most of it's gonna be inside Ollie's head. It might even be a mostly island episode. It could all just be flashbacks. Um, but
You
I,
know, that's a really good point, given that I mean, they set us up for that, knocking him out like that.
yeah. So I don't think it's going to be as Barry centric as we might think it.
That's gonna disappoint people because when people heard two parter, they figured it'd be Flash centered two parter.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I think this is going to be
I think you're
mostly
right.
Ollie.
Yep, I think you're onto something there.
Um, Outside of that, well, we were talking a little bit about this before we started recording. I'm hoping we get a full blown Solomon Grundy. He doesn't have to come back from the dead or anything, but I'm hoping we get like a more chalk white Solomon Grundy, and he needs pants too.
I think I think we definitely will, and we've been talking a lot about how they'll seed things and it'll be really gradual over time. I think they'll do that with Solomon Grundy. I mean, I think that the first step was bringing up the guy's name, and the second step was giving him super strength. Like I think they're building.
Yeah.
And again, what's really cool is this stuff is probably in certain ways more fun for people who don't know the source material because they'll get to be surprised by it.
Yeah, my mom didn't know that that was the Flash at all. So I'm assuming most people watching this show, not this show that we're recording right now. I think most people watching this show do know that
Yeah,
it's the Flash. I think most people watching Arrow probably don't know that it's the
but
Flash.
but also with smaller things like with Deathstroke and stuff like that, like this will be people's first exposure to stuff like that, to some of these characters, and they're doing a lot of them justice enough where it's a good first exposure,
Yeah, absolutely.
which I think is fantastic. And I mean, I'm learning about things I knew nothing about. Like I didn't know who Bronze Tiger was.
I
That was
yeah, I vaguely knew like it was the name of a villain.
I hope he comes back because I love Michael Jai White.
I actually do you have any more predictions? Because I actually have something else I just found out to mention about this episode.
Nothing really. I think I mentioned all mine earlier. Well, the only thing I was going to mention is, like I said, when Diggle says, "My God, what's next, aliens?" I'm hoping later on, at least in the Flash series, we get something with aliens.
Well, I mean, mentioned in Cord Industries, we could have the Blue Beetle aliens.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. But I mean, like, I love to see, like, I know we got him in Smallville, but I'd love to see another live action go round of Martian Manhunter.
Yeah, I think that's more a Flash thing than this show, but
No, not this show necessarily, but yeah. Anyway, what else did you have?
okay. So I just happened because it was clickable. I clicked the director of this episode,
Yeah.
Michael Schultz. So he's like a guy. First of all, he's 75 years old. He directed episodes of The Rockford Files, Starsky and Hutch, um, a lot of stuff back in the day. But he also directed Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Really?
Yeah,
That's fascinating.
yeah.
How'd they get that
I
guy?
don't know, but I mean, it looks like he's done a lot of TV, but um, yeah, like this is like a guy that directed this episode.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I saw that and I felt like bringing that up.
This show has surprises like that all the time.
Yeah, I'm glad I clicked that before we stopped recording.
Well, let's go ahead and go to our trivia questions now. And what was yours from last week, and what is the
You know,
answer?
it's funny because I was really worried right as we started recording because I was like, I don't remember what my trivia question is. So I had to go through the comments and find answers to remember what my trivia question was.
God, don't you write it in your notes?
I don't keep notes past when I like I get rid of my notes after we've recorded.
Oh, okay. So you didn't have your trivia question.
Yeah. So my trivia question last week was before Ollie died, he stopped Superman from doing something to him. And the reason that that happened was the editors didn't want our fans to connect it to another story. And what had happened, and the question was, what is that story that they didn't want to connect it to? And it is Dark Knight Returns. Um, Ollie's arm is stuck in a bomb, and instead of having a one-armed Ollie, which would have led comparisons to Dark Knight Returns because he only has one arm in that, they just let him die. Yeah, that was the answer to my trivia question. What was
That was a great question.
Yeah? What was your trivia question?
Well, I'll tell you, Eric. My
It
my
feels
trivia
like we
question.
haven't recorded in forever because we have that
Yeah,
1 week gap.
and one we got. Yeah. Mine was coordinates to the submarine are on one side of the arrowhead. What is on the other side? And it was a Buddhist inscription, though I don't think we know what it says yet.
Okay.
But it's mentioned that it's Buddhist because Slade has that line where he's like I don't think they're Buddhists. What's your trivia question for this week, Eric?
I'm finding one. You go.
Oh man, okay. My trivia question for this week, as always, has to do with the episode that we talked about, and it is: what color is the substance Oliver gets accidentally injected with in his fight with pre Solomon Grundy?
Um, the question I had, I realized because I just come up with it off the top of my head, and I realized that's not a Green Arrow question, that's a Hawkeye question. So I have to real quick come up with
Oh,
something else.
oh man, yeah, you would have really messed up your street cred
If
there.
anybody wants to know what the question was, it was going to be how does Green Arrow know which arrow is what trick arrow? But that's a Hawkeye question. The answer is he's got little bumps on the arrow like Braille that let him know what each arrow is. That's not
Oh,
my trivia question.
so how does Green Arrow do it? I
I
wonder.
don't remember. I'm sure it's been answered, but I don't remember. Uh,
He reaches back and he's like, "That doesn't feel like a boxing glove."
okay, so my question is, Uh, I don't know if it's Canada New 52, but pretty much everything since I want to say Mike Grell's run, possibly even going back before that. Oliver's bow is a very famous bow. Who owned Oliver's bow before he got it?
Cool. Way to come up with that real quick.
Yeah, I'm sure most people will get it. But yeah,
Well, everybody, thanks as always for listening to Air Discussions. This was a long one. I guess there was a lot in this
this was
episode.
a packed episode. I
It
watched it
was.
twice, and I still feel like I missed things.
Oh, me too. I'm sure I did. And it made me confused about things because I was like, oh yeah, that's why he left. His wife died. Why am I dumb? Anyway, well, any of the couple things I was kind of confused about. If people were watching way closer than me, and you have ideas, leave comments. I'd love to read them. And until next week, I'm Captain Logan,
And I'm Eric.
and we'll see you soon.